Now, we know it's politicians who don't always have all the answers, so every week on the show we ask someone who's not a politician what they would do if they ruled the world. I'm delighted today to be joined by the comedian Andy Parsons. Andy, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much. And of course, the politicians don't always have all the answers, do they? Which is why you have a lot of them on the show. They give some answers, some answers you're unhappy with.
Very often, some of them have no answers at all.
Yeah, and then they have to resign.
Yeah.
So you know.
Which is why we're putting you in charge of the world, Andy.
Yeah, which is very good, because I'll never have to resign, because it will never happen.
So what would be, if you were in charge of the world, what would be the first big change you'd like to make?
So, assuming that, the Prime Ministership of the UK was in charge of the world, given that we don't have world king, as I understand it, as some people have found to their cost. So first thing I would do, because you go through pretty much through the night, don't you?
Yeah.
Get very little sleep.
Yeah.
And then you're straight into Downing Street.
Yeah.
Let's have it assume that you don't have to do anything for 24 hours. You're allowed to have a bit of a party, bit of a knees up. You don't have to go and meet anybody.
Yeah.
You don't have to shake the king's hand, any of that nonsense. You can just stay there, have a really good sleep after partying with all your friends. And then the day after you've won, you come out and make a couple of pronouncements. That'd be my first change.
That's a first big change. I like that, because it is amazing. Like you said, they fight a general election campaign. Stay up all night waiting for the results because they're all on the telly.
And especially a close one, the adrenaline going. They've had to make a little speech at 12 o'clock, not really sure what the result's going to do.
Yeah.
And maybe about 4 o'clock, they're just getting the sense of it.
And then on no sleep at all, they're suddenly in the cabinet room writing letters for nuclear submarines.
And backing out towards the king or whatever they've got to do. You know? So, all very complex.
I like that. As a first big change, that's pretty good. And what sort of leader do you think you'd be? Are you a delegator? You hands-on, hands-off?
I think I'd have to be a delegator. I wouldn't know enough to not delegate. I'd have to have a lot of people who knew what they were doing. So, but obviously, delegate, but still check that they were doing what they should be doing.
So who are you delegating to? Who will you have in your team? You can have anyone. Yeah. They could be dead or alive. They could be real or fictional.
I would get all of the failed politicians who got fairly high up in the UK in the recent past. Yeah. All of those. The ones who've made all the mistakes, they've had to resign horribly, all of those, the vast experience in that would mean that they would go, no, don't do that, I did that, that's why nobody likes me.
So who are we talking, like Dominic Raab, Gavin Williamson?
Maybe not Dominic Raab, but he's sort of only recently gone, and he's not quite gone yet. No. As my MP, I know he's not quite gone yet. Yeah, so, but yes. I'll be, maybe the Camerons, the Osbornes, the Majors, Cleggs, whoever.
Like Avengers Assemble, get them all back together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you hear them talk now, and they often say, what I would have done if I was in power now, having known everything I've known. If you get them from the political spectrum, and you've got, a nice amount of stuff coming back from them from different angles, you think, oh, that sounds good. I'll have that one.
Nice, that's a good idea, that. You need a big room to fit them all in.
Yes, well, in terms of, I think you'd want to pick the ones that you thought, were at least humble enough to acknowledge the things that had gone wrong.
Yeah. Would Liz Truss be in that group?
No. She only had 6 weeks to muck up, and she mucked up so spectacularly she learnt nothing, did she? Which is why she's still making the same mistakes today.
Yeah, exactly right. And because all political careers end in failure, what would be your vice? Why would you have to resign?
I think holidays would be my vice.
Holidays?
Yeah, no, I do like a holiday, and quite an expensive one. And I'm sure if some donor came in and said, "Oh, well, Mr. Parsons, we can send you to the moon for a week."
What's your purpose of a holiday? What would be the moon?
Well, I mean, look, going into space would be very nice, isn't it? It's not something you're likely to be able to afford yourself, certainly for some time. So. And you could try and justify it, because everybody who goes up, don't they? They say, "Oh, I saw the Earth from above."
The curve and all that.
And I felt so much differently about.
That would be a real escalation in the rows. We have rows before, when there's a crisis at home and the minister's on holiday or whatever. But
where was Rishi Sunak this week?
Yeah, he appears to have gone to the moon. He's not available to help out. And that's right. I get the feeling, Andy. So you want 24 hours to not do anything to start with. You want to delegate everything.
Yes.
And then you'll probably be on holiday.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
I don't think your heart's really in this.
Well, the thing to say is that there is definitely an element where you can get too committed, too burnt out.
That's true.
And you need to be able to have that perspective.
Yeah, that's very true.
And often you think, you think about what you want to do, and then you go on holiday for a week, and you then suddenly know, don't you?
Yeah.
And you come back with that renewed passion.
That's true. Lots of holidays.
So and every time I didn't have that, I'd like to go on holiday just to regenerate it.
Now, you're not having much of a holiday this summer. You're going back to Edinburgh.
I am. I'm up to the Edinburgh Festival first time. So I did 17 full runs at the Edinburgh Festival, 17 continuous Edinburghs, and then I haven't done one full run for 17 years.
Wow.
So so it'll be, but I'm only going back for 2 weeks out of the 4. So I've got 2 weeks holiday, 2 weeks working.
What's made you want to go back now?
Well, the agent said, oh, go back. But it does actually work quite well. Because it used to be that you would tour pretty much. There was always the DVD schedule around October. You'd film it maybe September, October, and then it'd be out for the Christmas market. Yeah. That was the model up until about maybe 5 years ago. And then obviously the pandemic hit. Lots of things went online, streaming, all the rest of it. DVDs, the bottom fell out of the market. Yeah. And so now Edinburgh is actually quite a nice way because you've only got to do an hour in Edinburgh. And so the touring show is 2 hours. So it's actually quite a nice bridge. So I'm off on tour in September, October, all the way through for another year. But for that, you get to do your first 2 weeks in Edinburgh, and it gives you quite a lot of publicity because obviously a lot of the nationals and a lot of TV, they get jollies up there for the TV festival and all the rest of it. So they talk to their editor and say, it's a very good idea to be up there. Please, can we have a nice, expensive hotel for a little bit of time? Because we'll get
even the not very nice hotels are expensive.
Yes, very much so. I mean, even the most basic one that anybody can think of is probably going to be about 400 quid a night.
Yeah.
So much better to go to the best place in Glasgow, which won't be full, and then it's only 50 minutes across on the train.
Up on the train.
Yeah.
And what can people expect from your show? Because they'll know you from doing lots of topical stuff and Mock the Week and that sort of thing. Is your show changing all the time, or is it sort of locked in? And you know it.
It's a bit of everything.
Yeah.
There'll be a structure.
Yeah.
The sort of beginning and end point. Because Edinburgh Festival, normally you'd go theatre, it's only you that night.
Yeah.
You can go on as long as you like, pretty much. Ken Dodd often would go far longer than most theatres would want him to go, do the 5-hour specials. But there's no time limit on that, generally. Whereas with Edinburgh, there's somebody on 20 minutes before you, somebody on 20 minutes afterwards. You've got to be pretty tight. So you've got to have some sort of knowledge of where the timelines are. But yeah, inevitably, whatever happens in the news will get chucked in. It's basically, it's done on the last, my show, it's called Bafflingly Optimistic, where it sort of, all the things that are going wrong, the 4 horsemen have arrived, the idea of disease and death and war, and then cost of living crisis in the form of famine for a lot of families. And then what can we hope for in the future? And that's maybe the last minute or so. But
are you bafflingly optimistic by nature?
Yes, I am. Obviously you often get downtrodden and beaten up. But yeah, no, generally I am, and obviously there's only a certain amount of, if you've got people who want to come out for a night out. If it's too bleak, there's an element they go, well, we've spent X amount of money on babysitting to come and get depressed. So there'll be a little uplift.
You need a little uplift at the end. And is there anything you're worried about, having not been there for 17 years, about what might have changed, or anything that fills you with any trepidation?
Well, it's funny because I actually went up there to have a little look, and the expectation that I was going to be up there this year. And everybody said it had changed because there was no free Fringe when I was up there. Well, there was like 4 big venues, and then suddenly some of the big venues lost some of their venues, and now most of those venues got them back last year. The free Fringe is less. There's less people doing the free Fringe. The £5 Fringe has come and gone since I've been up there. So actually it looked remarkably similar. Accommodation's still ridiculously expensive. Probably the only thing is I think people are doing less of the full runs. So there'll be more people taking the 2 weeks holiday.
And 2 weeks holiday and then coming to see you.
That's right, hopefully.
So give us all the details, Dan. It's Pleasance Courtyard. It's Bafflingly Optimistic.
Yes, 7 p.m. And
7 p.m.
14th to the 27th of August, and then on tour around the country afterwards.
Fantastic. Andy Parsons, thanks so much for coming on and telling us what you would do if you ruled the world.
Thank you very much.